capturing an array of pre-identified spots for Earth scientific observation is one example of the science the station crew does. These crew Earth observations allow the crew to observe and photograph natural and human-made changes on Earth. They provide researchers with key data to better understand the planet on which we live. One of these images taken from the crew, the Okavango Inland Delta, northern Botswana. The Great Okavango Delta in the Kalahari Desert is illuminated in the sun's reflection point. In this panorama taken from the International Space Station, using the sun glint technique, astronauts can image fine detail of water bodies. Here, the bright line of the Okavango River shows the annual summer flood advancing from the well-watered Angolan highlands to the delta. Most of the water of this river is used up by the forest or evaporates in the dry air. Part of one of the space station solar arrays is visible at the image upper right. Many of those images of Earth are gathered as part of an experiment on the station known as Crew Earth Observations, which has been in operation since Expedition 1. Today we're going to learn more about it from Dr. Justin Wilkinson, the principal geoscientist, right?
Correct.
And from Jacobs Engineering. Thank you so much for joining us today so we can talk about these beautiful photos that we always ooh and ah about, but there is some real science behind
Absolutely.
these photographs.
Lots of science.
So let's first talk about why is Earth observation mission, or what is the Earth observation mission for the space station?
Well, our little group is there to help astronauts take photographs and then to make them available to two big groups of users. The first group is the 15 to 25 million people who use who make hits on our site every month. Then also to a bunch of scientists. We've got scientific connections all over the world. So those two major groups. But then we also help the astronauts take these photographs because it's good for them to take the photographs. We know that there's a psychological benefit to doing that.
Yeah, they do seem to enjoy taking those photographs, and we probably just as equally enjoy, looking at them. So can you explain to me why it's important for us to be able to view Earth from the perspective of the space station?
Well, the very large view that all satellites, but especially the space station, are giving scientists gives us a sense of the size of some of the natural systems. So we understand winds better, we understand ocean dynamics better, we understand even tectonics better by looking at the big view. The eye is a very small lens, which means you see a huge view when you look out of a window. And it's those perspectives which we are changing our knowledge of the Earth with.
Yeah, and I know some of these photos are what we were talking about, just the changing of the Earth. It's kind of interesting. So are we comparing data that we received back from Expedition 1 to like current data now of the same locations?
That may be the biggest single thing that we are doing. So many satellites up there now looking at parts of the Earth, but even within our own database, which is now quite big, about 1 billion images, we have the best time looking at the earlier images and comparing them with what we see today. We see all kinds of changes.
So I know some of these spots are pre-identified by you guys. Can you explain to me what are the factors? How do you go about determining which locations on Earth that they're going to be taking for the day?
Sure. We have a series of scientific collaborators around the world, and they send in a few sites that they would like to have imaged with the particular cameras that we have. And so that makes the main set of sites that we have in our database that we ask for every day, or some of which we ask for every day, depending on where exactly the spacecraft is and when they're awake and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But the other group is personal requests from crew members. And they usually send us a big long list of places they want to get. So we put that in our database and we ask for those too, again, depending on weather and when they're awake.
Wow. So some of these photos that we see, we're seeing them on social media, and the crew members aboard the space station are really engaging with a lot of folks out there, and they seem to be some of the most popular things that we're seeing out there. How do you explain, do you feel how does that benefit the mission of the crews sharing these kinds of photos with the public?
Well, before there was Twitter, we were getting something like 20 million hits a month on our website looking at the photographs, the stills. This huge new thing of the social media is only boosting the number of people that see the images and starting to understand the world and see what the world actually looks like instead of from a map, from an actual view, such as the views we've got there. There's a Twitter shot of the Andes Mountains, for example. I mean, that's just exciting. It's why I do what I do.
It's very good. It is exciting. I think a lot of people really, really do. Somehow we connect with that. It's our world, it's our Earth, and you see, how we have all these boundaries, but yet from up there, it just doesn't seem that way. And very, very interesting, and some beautiful photos. Some of them are almost very artistic looking, but I think that the science part is really intriguing for a lot of people as well. So if you have anything else that you want to share about the science of studying Earth observations, or maybe even explaining how you got into that.
Well, maybe the first thing to say is that the artistic side is what galvanizes very many of the astronauts, and some particularly good at taking artistic shots.
Yeah.
In fact, a book recently came out with the most artistic shots that one of the astronauts had taken. But for me, I'm a desert geologist, which means that I have the best time of all because there's few clouds over the deserts of the world, so I get to see what I want to see all the time.
Sure.
And I've been working on that now for about 20 years,
Wow.
here.
Okay, so 20 years, so you've been working on this since the Expedition 1 of the photos that were being taken down the Crew.
Oh, yeah, in fact, well before that.
So then you've gone through a lot of photos in your time here with us. So I would like to know, what is your favorite Crew Earth observation, and tell me why.
Well, the first picture that you put up there, the Okavango swamps, that is actually one of my research areas. Yeah, there you go. And what's neat about it is it shows that the annual flood has come all the way to that bottom line, that sharp bottom line just below the middle of the picture. And we find that there's not just one of these big swamps there, but we've got something like 10 of them, most of them not active now, but that was a huge new discovery for us, right next door to that one.
Very well. It's beautiful.
So that's one of my favorite shots. My other favorite shot has just come up, and this is the River Plate in central Argentina. And just to give you a sense of scale, there in the lower left, you see the city of Buenos Aires, which has got about 13 million people. It's 60 miles across. It's a huge place, and you can see that the estuary itself, which is all brown, filled with brown sediment water, is a very large area. And all of that brown sediment has come down the big river, the Paraná River, the second river of South America, and it's been deposited into the sea, making that huge brown mass. And basically what it is the Andes Mountains, which are being thrust upwards by tectonic forces, being eroded down, and that's the mud that's come off from the erosion of those big mountains. That is huge quantities of sediment coming into the sea.
Yeah, that is incredibly fascinating. And actually that photo is a piece of art. I would think I would actually enjoy. I could see that on the wall somewhere.
I think that's why I chose it. I was asked for another favorite, and that's one of my favorites for exactly that reason.
It's a nice photo. It would be hard to pick one out of all the photos that you've seen come across your desk, but I think your work is very important and interesting for us, and again, the public enjoys that, and I think the crew members aboard the space station enjoy taking those photos as well. Thanks so much for coming out and talking with us today.
You're very welcome.
Best of luck to you.
Nice to be here. Thanks.
Thank you.